was pretty good. It's crazy to me that not only we were in a cloud of smoke and ash and all the fun that's been happening from all that, now within a couple of days, fires are being put out and they're actually being snowed on top of it. September in Colorado, isn't that just fun?
Yeah, the weird thing is when it was raining, the rain was coming through all the ash, and so it was ash rain. It was like ash rain.
Dirty rain.
It was dirty rain. Dirty rain.
Actually,
isn't that a song?
It can be symbolic of something too, because ash and rain mixture, it's kind of like a cleansing thing, you know? I think a lot of people would spend a lot of money at a spa to get rained down with ash.
My wife was like, "Oh, this is amazing." I was like, "What?" Like, I'm thinking dirty cars,
Right.
you know, it's disgusting, like ash, you know, and she's like, "Oh, it's so good for the environment, like
For the
ash,
dirt and the plants.
You know what it does for plants? The ash going back in the water and the ash combined, it's the best thing ever for plants. It's so good." And I'm like, you would spin it positively, wouldn't you?
Darn you, bright ray of sunshine. Ugh.
I'm like, wow, she found a ray of positivity. That's hilarious. But yeah, no, that's crazy. What's so funny is, you know, I felt like we lived next to Mordor for a while because of the ash falling and like being in just this like.
Hey, Colorado is Middle Earth in a lot of ways. People don't realize it, especially when we actually had the fires going. We actually had Mordor off in the corner for a while there.
I know. And it was just like, you know, fire and brimstone and it was crazy. But then
It's the Eye of Sauron.
I know the Eye of Sauron's always watching is how it felt. But then all of a sudden we went from literally 100-degree plus, of course, forgive us for Fahrenheit, but 100-degree plus Fahrenheit degrees. The hottest August in the history of mankind of recording. Of course, we weren't like here 3,000 years ago to record it, but
Right.
in the for recorded history, hottest August in the recorded history, to it dropped 60 degrees overnight and started to snow. I mean, it's Colorado, so this happens, but it was
Don't like the weather? Just wait 10 minutes.
pretty extreme. Pretty extreme. What's up, Joe Wagner? What's up, Bass Rack? How's it going, brothers?
Good morning.
Got 6 of you jumping on, so what's up, guys? But so extreme, and they saw the weather coming. They were like, hey, the weather's going to put these fires out, which is super awesome. We're like super excited. We're like, yeah. But they were like, we got to get all the fire equipment off the mountain, because what happens is the fire destroys anything that can kind of hold the dirt in place. And then what
Loosens
happens?
up a lot of roots, yeah.
Yeah, and then what happens is when it rains and snows and stuff, it creates mudslides, really bad mudslides. And so they're really afraid of all the equipment getting stuck and or getting like caught up in there. So the last 2 days, they've been dragging all their equipment down out of the mountain as fast as they could. And apparently the rain and snow and everything put the Eye of Sauron
Put it out.
put it out, just completely put it out. It's
Just
like,
snuffed it.
yep, completely out. So that's good. I see no Jedi here. What's up, brother? Looking
Actually, which
forward
makes
to
me
it.
wonder, we should look into it, because we had the largest fire in Colorado history going there for a while. I wonder if it's like way down now or if that got put out as well.
Which one?
Isn't the Pine Gulch fire the largest that they had in the
Yeah,
United
the Pine
States?
Gulch fire, the one that's just north of us, is the largest fire in Colorado history ever. It's now officially in the books as the biggest fire in history, but it was officially snuffed
Oh, it is
last
snuffed?
night. Yeah,
Nice.
it's snuffed.
I
As
mean,
of
we
last
don't
night.
usually get a lot of rain here, because if it does happen, it's like 10 to 15 minutes of maybe a downpour, maybe a sprinkle, but then
It's
the sun's
like,
back
beep.
out and it's dried out and it's fine. You don't even know it rained, but
Is that you want some rain?
yeah,
Boop.
there you go. You get a few
There you
drops
go.
in your
Boop,
head.
boop. 'Cause
Whereas
we're
it
a
actually,
desert.
yeah, it actually hung out for a full day. Like it rained and drizzled, and then it kept on going for a full day, which you don't normally get around here. So I guess that was enough to help them out up there. So
Woohoo! Frank Brown is glad that Warrior Wednesdays is actually on Wednesday this
again?
week. Yeah,
Oh,
because he was
crazy.
like, "Hey, Wednesday, it was Tuesday. What's going on last week?" He was
Mm-hmm.
like, "This isn't right." Yeah, I did Warrior Wednesdays on Tuesdays. I should have called it
Yeah,
like Terrible Tuesday or something.
yeah, right.
I only got one day off last week.
Torrential Tuesday.
Today's my only day off this week, but
Man.
I see light at the end of the tunnel. Next week, I'll finally be back to regular, a couple of days off. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's been a month.
Regular in retail terms. Yeah.
I know it's been a month almost now that I've been getting like one day off a week, and that's difficult. But especially when you have a family and all that, it's just really difficult to like find time to
Unless
do
you're,
anything.
unless you're just that type of personality, or you just kind of use that type of environment. I have a couple that I work for that own a few different restaurants in the area, multiple houses and all that. I've been doing a house restoration for them for a while, but they literally work 7 days a week if they could, but they do take Sundays off usually, I guess. Sunday is kind of a day for them, or Tuesdays is when they're
day of rest.
Tuesdays when their restaurants close, but they don't usually take a day off for that because it's like a prep day, restocking things and or whatever. But it's like, they literally they work 12 to 14 hours a day. They get 1 day off a week, and that's their life. They spend the majority of their time at the restaurant.
They're hard workers, man.
I tell you what.
Yep, Asians are hard workers, I tell you. Frank Brown says, I screwed up his internal clock. How dare I take a day off? I try not to overwork
kicking out
myself.
your groove a little bit, guys shake things up once in a while.
The job in and of itself, when you're doing something you're just innately good at, it's not really difficult, if you will. So the job itself isn't actually hard for me. I guess when I show up, I do it, I go home. It's like, I don't feel like I'm challenged in that sense. I do have a passion for it. I like my job. So it's not that. It's just not in balance right now, if that makes sense. It's just not in balance. I'm there more than I should be home. And that happens anytime there's a large...
your chakras are misaligned.
Yeah, well, it's, you know what I mean? Like there should be home time, personal time, family time, personal time, work time. I mean, there should be this like balance. And every so often there's a big sale, and then my business says, you got to put in more time at the business. And every year that work-life balance gets a little more askew. They ask just a little bit more than they did the year before. And I told my wife, at some point they're going to go overboard, ask too much. And I'm just going to be like, foot down. Sorry. Have a good day.
Healthy boundary.
Yeah. Cause, they were like, well, it's only a month, and then but it was like, when I first started, they were like, this week, the last week of the month, you're working 6 days. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. And they're like, but it's only 1 week. And then, a few years later, it's like, well, last week and the first week, it's the last week of this sale and the first week of this sale, 2 weeks, but it's only 2 weeks that you'll work 6 days. And then a few years later, it was like, the last week and the first couple weeks, but it's a big sale. So it's only a couple of weeks, here and there. And now it's like, it's only a month sale. It's 1 month a year. So they keep stretching that like ask. So, the companies do that, but they do.
I worked for a really good company for a while that was always really big on saying that we want you to have equal amount of time here as you have at home. We want you to have equal amount of time back and forth. And I always thought that was really cool of them because they thought, oh, cool, good balance. They realize that you got to have a life outside of your job, all that. Well, of course, me being the kind of person that has a hard time not walking to a place and working 120% all the time, so they get used to that. So then they expect that of you all the time. So if you suddenly work as hard, as a regular 100% worker, then suddenly, what the heck is wrong with you? Well, this guy who works 65% is over there, like, going to have a job there for the rest of his life. So once they started asking more and more of me, and I realized I was working more hours than everybody else and being called in on Saturdays and like setting up whole new equipment, machinery, and procedures and all that, it's like, oh, it's cool to be wanted and needed and be a key person in the job. But then when I realized that I kept on having responsibilities stacked on, more hours stacked on, more, I kind of realized, hold on a second, guys, I'm still being paid the same amount here for what I agreed to when I first started. So how does this work?
Yeah.
They were just like, oh, we really appreciate it. Thanks. And then they put me back to my normal hours and didn't ask that of me anymore, and no raise. It's like, oh, okay. So as soon as I noticed it, they're like, oh, okay, back it off.
Okay. So I have 2 story times for at the end, and we were discussing, and we couldn't decide between the two of us which one we should do. They're both good, I suppose. I'll tell them to the best of my ability. But one of them is from high school. It's just kind of a funny story. When I was in high school, eating lunches during, high school's funny thing, right? You hang out with friends, you do some silly, stupid stuff, and it comes out of like lunchtime during high school and some of the silly antics that happen during high school lunches. So there's that. That's one story time. There's kind of a couple of mini story times in that story time. They're both kind of funny. So we'll do that one. Or I have another story time, which kind of compares, because I was telling this story to my son and he was just like, what? Like he was blown away by the past versus the present when it comes to like teenage working struggles, like a teenager working today versus a teenager working in the past. And so I didn't know if that would be an interesting story to kind of compare and contrast, because it's kind of it's not like a super funny story or anything, just a kind of an interesting story. I mean, it has kind of a funny, twist and stuff, but it's just a story about like when I was a teenager working
Always bring up
versus
something about them dang kids.
I know, but when I was working as a teenager versus like teenagers working now, just comparing like my daughter working or my son working versus me working, and just kind of, it's so interesting kind of where we're at in life now in comparison. Of course, it's going to come from my perspective, obviously, but
No, you're going to say it from my
But
perspective,
also-
just because you felt like, you know what, I'm going to say it from somebody
but
else
also in
too.
America, because it's an American story, so it may not resonate with everybody, but it's just a perspective thing. It's kind of interesting perspective, and it really rocked my son because he sees me very successful. So he sees me as, and my son, by the way, he's mixed. He's not like just a white boy like me, so you know what I mean? He's Native American and Chinese. And so, and he
Well,
looks,
again, if you're American, you're a mutt. You know, you're a mixture of
yes,
something.
but he does not look white. He looks very, he looks very ethnic. And so he does not, he gets a different perspective than I get when it comes to things and how he sees stuff and how he gets treated and all sorts of stuff. So, anyway, he heard my story and he forgets sometimes. He sees me as just like this rich white guy, basically. And so when he hears my like humble beginnings, he kind of goes, huh, I forget you struggle.
Yeah.
Or you went through the fire too, kind of thing.
You know
like,
darn good and well what poverty's like.
yeah. And so anyway, it was just a good perspective story about like then and then like kids now. And it was just interesting. So I could do that story kind of comparing the then and the now, or I could do like the high school antics lunchtime story. Both of them are kind of fun and interesting. There's more of a probably lesson learned on the whole comparison one, and less of a lesson learned on the other one.
Maybe a little bit of depression as to where our country's at now compared to back then. Maybe
Yeah.
slightly better, It's,
What's up, Zevius, by the way? Zevius says, what is going on? Helen X is here. What's up, Helen X? I kind of miss all of my Star Wars Galaxy Heroes buddies. So you asked me a couple of days ago, you were like, I need Malik. And then you came in
not so
today?
much that I needed him. I've just always wanted him for my secondary account. And it's like, hey, I've got the people for it. I've got the tunes. I should be able to make this happen. I'm especially higher than what you had for gearing and for speed and mods and all that. I had a lot better than what Mobile Gamer had. So I was going off of both your tutorial online and off of his. I tried both situations and they both did not work, and I'm like going, okay, what the heck? So I kind of put a feeler out to my guild like, hey guys, what's going on here? Anybody tried the Malik event recently? Has it actually gotten harder or more impossible? Like, I know dark side's pretty easy, but light side has always been ridiculous. Well, it's gotten like 2 levels more ridiculous. So I was beating my head against the wall for a while. They're just trying to figure out what the heck, trying all those different variations. Eventually kind of came up with my own, a slightly different variation. And on like the 50th try, it finally pulled off. But I was just like, are you kidding me?
So you came in today, you opened up the game and handed it to me, and I was just like, oh no. I thought he was going to try and make me play the game this morning. I'm like,
I literally asked him the other day on
2 nights ago, you were like, will you please play this event for me? I know you don't play the
just
game
to make
anymore.
me feel like I'm not going crazy here, because it's like, even back in the day when I would ask him for help, it would usually be a situation where I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. You'd be like, oh, okay, let's take a look here. I'm like, I think it's because I don't have good enough mods, or they're not geared high enough. He's like, well, let's try it. Oh, okay, there you go. Beat it perfectly, 3-star. What's wrong with you? Like, what the? Come on.
That happened a couple times. I don't know about all the time, but so anyway, he asked me a couple nights ago, would you play the event and beat it? And I was just hesitant, but I was like, okay, I'll probably help you. Not tonight.
I don't know.
Not tonight, but maybe in the next couple of days. And so anyway, he came in today, opened the game, and I was just thinking to myself, we're about to do a stream. Let's not get caught up in this. And he was like, I don't need your help. I was like,
Good.
oh, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Finally worked out, but it is interesting how in an event like that, to have characters that are too powerful, that hit too hard, can actually throw off the whole
That's true. That is
of
true.
events and how you're supposed to do
offense, Too much offense actually can destroy him too fast, and can actually throw off, because you've got to have time to get enough of those stacks of armor shred. And if you don't get enough stacks of armor shred when the time comes to kill him, you won't be able to kill him. So you actually don't want to do too much offense too quickly. And so it was irony when I first showed it to you. I remember you had the other account and you had like way too much. You had like 7,400 offense or some insanity. And I was like, dude, you've
overmodded.
Dude,
Darn.
You can't do it with that. It's like you lowered the offense, and then it was like a walk in the park. But it was like way too much offense. And who would have thought you could have over modded for an event? But it was true.
Malek's so powerful, you think you had to hit through all that armor, and it's like, well, yeah, you do have to do that.
It
but
compresses
when you
all
just
of that.
destroy everything else too quickly, you don't have a chance for all those stacks to actually line up.
Yeah, so you got to have, it's there's no rush. You just take your time, but you've got to have time.
Yourself.
And a lot of people with under offense characters actually do it, and the reason is they take their time, and all they do is manage the stacks that are on him to keep him under 10, and then get enough, they had enough potency and stuff to get enough of the, the armor shred. Yeah. And then eventually
the biggest thing that I changed with both you and Mobile Gamer's strategy was that I just didn't put any armor shred on any of the droids. I was too powerful. I was able to knock them down quick enough. I just saved them all from
You have
Malek.
so much offense on a mission. She's able to one-shot those droids.
Practically,
Most people can't do that. So anyway, there's that as well. Joe Wagner says he's stuck on the light side right now himself.
That's a difficult one. I swear, even from back in the day when I did it with my other account that was overpowered, compared to what I'm doing with my free-to-play account, it's like it's definitely a much different world than what it was back then. I think they've tweaked things a little bit. And I even had quite a bit of currency saved up to buy the rest of his shards in the store, and apparently 20,000 of that currency wasn't nearly enough. I keep on forgetting how much. I didn't sit there and do the math on how much he needed. So
I got some good cards today.
Yeah. Ooh.
We did poll the internet, so there'll be a poll at the end of each one of these. We're going to read the poll and tell you what the internet thought about each one of these, but I got some good cards. You must unlearn what you have learned.
Exactly. You must be like water.
Let's see who goes first. This is my pile. That's your pile. I randomized them again.
Fierce, but movable.
Yes.
Change up. Oh, didn't work.
Doesn't really matter. We answer all of them anyway. That's just for fun.
No, I wanted to go first. It means everything.
It's just for pride.
Just like the points and whose line is it anyway?
All right. Get the worst one out of the way. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Poll the internet. So
Earmuffs, kids.
I'll read what the internet says at the end. But would you rather fight a kangaroo or look like Sam Castle?
Sam Cassell.
Oh, Cassell?
Who's Sam?
Cassell or Castle? Cassell?
From the odd spelling, I'm thinking it's Cassell.
Cassell? I don't even know who that is.
Cassell.
Sam Cassell.
Yeah. Trying to fight a kangaroo or look like.
Afternoon, boys. What up, Matt B?
I mean, this is like a pull the internet situation.
I would rather fight a kangaroo. I don't want to look like some other dude.
I don't know who Sam Cassell is, and yeah, I'm
look him
guessing if they put him on there, it's probably because he's not a very attractive person.
Yeah, he's got to be ugly.
I mean, we can't all be Brad Pitts or whatever. So let's double check here. Got to do some research on this one.
Uh-oh. We got to look
Oh, come on, Google. You got to be listening in. You didn't have that one already filled out for me?
Here we go. Oh. He's not.
He's a basketball player.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just got, like, really big teeth.
I don't know. I guess when it comes right down to it, as usual, I'm not a good judge of men.
Neither am I.
Men's looks, I don't know.
That's him. So, I mean, I'm not gay, so I can't tell you whether he's attractive or not.
Yeah.
But I guess because he's got...
former NBA player, too, as JP Starkiller is piping in there.
He looks like he's kind of got big teeth.
Played for the Bucks and the Pistons. Okay, cool. I know one of them was a team name. Who are the What's the Bucks? Anyways, not a basketball fan at all, especially now.
I don't think he's...
No, I wouldn't say he's like...
Horrible. Well,
he's no Steve Buscemi. Let's say that.
I don't know. This picture when he was younger makes him look not so...
Not so odd. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, like a lot of guys,
the older
they can change appearance quite a bit. I was going to say,
the older he got, probably the better looking he got.
No, I'll take this question in the sense where it's like, it didn't really matter who they were going to say that you had to look like because, okay, whatever. I've always been curious. I have seen some shredded kangaroos before. I mean, like the kind of animals you wouldn't want to walk up on and be like, hey, I'm going to flick you in the air just to mess with you or whatever, or, go face to face with you because they look scary. It's not so much that how they're big and bulky and ripped up here. It's the fact that they use their tail, they balance, and they kick you with their feet. And I guess they have pretty decent claws in their feet. They try to disembowel you. So that would be rough, but I'd be curious to see how I do against a kangaroo.
Me too. You know
probably royally destroy me, and I might not make it. But one of those things where you had to find out. Like the first time I walked into a boxing match when I had zero training, except for 2 weeks before I was doing shadow boxing and cardio, and I walked in to a rink with this guy who had 2 years of training ahead of me. We both had our first sanctioned fight, and I actually held my own for 1.5 rounds till I had too many unanswered punches, and he eventually had a technical knockout or whatever. But like one of those situations where I just had to know like how I could handle or how it would stack up, so I go into it and just see.
Yeah, and since you know they'll want to like, point up on their tail and then like kick you with their
Talons.
amazing feet, and you kind of know their like stance, and then a lot of times they'll like try and grab you with their hands and like pull you in to kick you. You kind of know their strategy, and they're kind of like a one-size-fits-all strategy. They're super powerful. Don't get me wrong. They're like formidable, strong, and if they kicked you, you could be knocked out hardcore, like really bad. All you'd have to do is make sure that you did a nice blade stance, a really strong, nice blade stance, have really good defense, and then
keep your balance. Stick and move a lot.
Yeah, I would really love to be able to like deflect, knock that leg to the side, and just straight pop.
I mean, it's playing.
And I seen a video
of a dude dirty, but I've heard if you break their tail, they lose their balance and they can't.
I don't even know if you could.
They specifically rely on that.
I'm a kicker. I'm not a puncher. I'm a kicker. So I am a kangaroo.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, so it'd be like, MMA, but like the old days, it'd be like UFC 1, like an original UFC 1. It'd be like
straight
the old
face
school
kicks, not just lunging knees.
Yeah, it'd be like the old way. Like, let's see.
If I were Seth Rogen legs, I'd probably give it more of a chance with kicking. I like to do all of that. I don't like to be just a puncher when it comes right down to it. So when I did boxing, it was awkward for me. But like, yeah, I got some pretty powerful kicks, and I have some strategy with that. So I don't think I'd win. I'm just more curious to see how I'd stack up. Maybe I have to like wear Kevlar across my stomach to keep from those talons, getting in, or those claws getting in there. But yeah.
Oh, Joe Wagner says, "But how's your hip?" Well, my hip's horrible. I couldn't do it right now. I'd have to have my hip surgery, recuperate from that. And then,
again, as Bob Ross says, maybe in our world, we... And
then once it's recouped, man, oh, man, yeah. And I would have to train for it, of course.
Yeah.
You'd have to give me a little bit of time, have a little montage.
I am getting back into a workout routine, so we'll see how that would pan out for me. Maybe kind of intensify that a little bit and then hop in the ring with a kangaroo. If his name wasn't Roo or Ruru, then it wouldn't be worthwhile.
Frank said, would you rather get kicked in the nards by the kangaroo or chug a pitcher of homebrewed bathtub double IPA?
Bathtub double IPA?
Well, it's IPA.
If that's a brand name of somebody who makes an IPA,
I would drink the IPA.
I'm down for the IPA. If it's your personal bathtub brand of IPA, sorry, Frank.
So surprisingly, the internet would rather, 82% would rather have to fight a kangaroo like you and I.
Sorry, Sam.
They want to look like themselves.
You're probably a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy, I'm sure. He's just, nobody wants to look like other people. They want to look like themselves. Mm-hmm. So, and everybody wants to drink
the IPA. Yeah. I mean, I guess when it comes right down to it, it's like, oh, that was nasty bathwater for some dude. But I mean, it's all fermented anyways, right?
I know, right. It's alcohol. It's going to clean itself.
If it was my bathtub water IPA, I'd feel a little better about it. I don't know what it is. Everybody likes their own brand,
I mean, you'd have to go to get the hair out.
You have no idea how much I shed. I mean, really, that would be a problem.
I have an idea.
I'd drink it through a strainer, and this ain't enough of a strainer, let me tell you.
Oh, I have an idea.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%.
Happen to know me a little bit. Been around a while. Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, let's do it.
Should I start from the front or the back?
I don't care.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
We got a poll of the internet. Would you rather A or B? Here we go.
All right. Poll the internet.
So would you rather A, you have your girlfriend's hair, B, she has your hair? Would you rather make out with somebody attractive who has your hairstyle, or you suddenly become more attractive than her? Oh.
So, I have her hair or she has mine. Which would I rather?
Mm-hmm. Would you rather be rocking her locks or have her deal with yours? Put up with.
I'd rather just rock her locks. One, my wife does relatively shorter hair, like more kind of
shorter length or above, yeah.
Yeah, it's not an A-line because it's not a Karen.
Right.
but it's shorter. It's not like super long or whatever. So guys would be like, whatever. I mean, I could throw it back and wear a hat or whatever. And people be like, oh, dude, he's got kind of longer hair or whatever. But a lot of guys wear longer hair. But if she had my hair, they'd be like, oh, she's a recovering cancer patient, you know. You know, they would be all like, whatever, and it would be harder for her to just...
No, they would just assume that she prefers women.
Maybe. So, I don't know. I'd rather her just not have to deal with it because women are judged. You know what I mean? Women judge women, men judge women. Like, just women are just judged more in this world. And so I wouldn't want her to have to deal with that like extra added stress in life, even though you shouldn't have to. So I would say that she should just be at peace with exactly where she's at. And if somebody had to change, it'd be me because I can handle that. Who gives a crap? I don't care. You totally do what you want, say what you want. Listen, I can handle it, dude. My name is, you know, my last name is Cox. Like, you guys get it. Like, you know what I mean? I was a seaman. So in the Navy, like I have thick skin. I was a YouTuber. You know what I mean? Like I can handle, I was a cop. Like, you know, I've been spat
unfortunately, my skin's thicker
stuff
than my
thrown
hair.
at me. So, I mean, I have thick skin. I can handle whatever the world's going to throw at me because my hair is slightly longer than it is right now. So not a big deal. I wouldn't do a man bun though. I wouldn't do a man bun. Nothing necessarily against a man bun. I have a soon-to-be son-in-law who has a man bun. He proudly wears that bad boy. He's got super long hair, by the way. He took it out of his man bun, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
He's like Native American, though.
Well, he's done a bit more like what I
amazing.
did when I had my long hair. I did all the short sides first, then I let it all grow out into it. I eventually let it fill out, so it was like straight Fabio, or not even Fabio. He had pretty thin hair, but it was more like Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, maybe, I guess, a little bit more on the wavy side. So it worked out after a while. But the way he does it, it's pretty stylish. I'll give him that.
He throws it in there.
He's an attractive man.
Yeah, he throws it in the bun because he works as like a plumber, electrician during the day, like a general guy. You know, they work and do different things, mostly plumbing, but a lot of different stuff. And so it's got to be out of the way. And he's got super long hair, but he's, you know, Hispanic Native American. And so it's culturally relevant.
Between him and Maddie, they got pretty well interchangeable hair in that regard. You wouldn't notice much of a difference between the two of them.
They're both Hispanic and Native American, so their kids will be, they'll be pretty awesome. But yeah, his hair goes with it. When he pulls it down, it's like, oh man, Tonto. Yeah,
actually, I think when it's Indian Mexican mix, it's Paisa. I forgot how my coworker used to always say that he had Cherokee blood in him, so he always made sure to remind me of that.
Yeah, she's Southern Ute. I'm not sure what he is. Actually, should ask. I don't even know. So that'd be interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I don't care. I could do the hair. What about you?
Me? Shoot. I guess if we go off of my last girlfriend, I guess I'd give her my hair because I'm sorry that hairstyle of hers, although looked good on her, would do me no favors whatsoever. Not to mention that'd be an odd combination of the blonde, slightly Karen haircut that was more about ear length with the beard like this. That would just be an odd combo. And hers was more like highlighted too. So it was like, no. I think I'd probably make her with that. If it was, I guess we could go all the way back to my ex-wife. I guess I wouldn't mind rocking that hair because when my hair gets long, it looks similar to that, just not quite as flat. So yeah, no, I guess, sorry ladies, whoever ends up being the future one, you're getting my hairstyle. As far as I can tell right now anyways.
If she was buff, that might look kind of cool. You know what I mean? And Frank Brown says, yeah, you got thick skin because you do a lot of stupid stuff, you know, in the past, like giving away TI counters.
Ooh. Yeah, sorry, guys.
Spoiler alerts. That was totally exclusive.
We are totally kicked out of Team Instinct. Yep, we're no longer allowed in that guild. Wait, what?
Yeah, because Rebels, nobody's ever put Rebels together.
Never. Nobody's tried any kind of variation like that with all the tunes available to them, available to everybody else. No, that would never happen before.
No one's ever put those specific characters together ever in 4 years. Those exact ones ever. Never. It's never happened. Wait.
You should probably tell everybody that's watching to back off a little bit. You don't want your wives to be reading some of this, I'm sure. No, I didn't say that to everybody publicly on a public forum. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Matt B said he'd let his wife have his because she's always been jealous. Plus, he doesn't shed nearly as much. That's funny. Joe Wagner. Oh, what was that wrestler's name that has blonde hair and a black beard?
Oh, let me tell you something, brother. I'll know exactly who that guy is. He even had the mega powers there for a while. Hulkster and Hulkamania. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Macho Man didn't do that. He just went from like light brown hair to suddenly jet black hair for what was left of it for a while there when he was still letting his bandana fall off. It was kind of hilarious. But
that is hilarious.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan was definitely doing the dyed black Fu Manchu with his, what was left of his blonde locks. It was pretty hilarious. Yeah, which I'm sure he even took the time to dye. But going back to the poll,
What'd they say?
83% of Barstool readers chose A, to have their girlfriend's hair.
Wow, selfless people. They'd rather have their girlfriend's hair and not make their girlfriend wear their hair.
One thing they didn't say, though, is if you were to choose one or the other, does that mean you just switch haircuts? So, I mean, it's kind of like 6 of one, half dozen the other, right?
This is an interesting one. Interesting. Pull the internet. These are all pull the internet. So again, we'll have pull the internet poll at the end. Would you rather wake up in the middle of the night to see something looming over you, being A, a massive dude,
Yikes,
or B, a ghost? I already thought this one through.
I know. I was to say, let me think back to one of my million scenarios I've had in this while I'm sleeping with a gun by my bedside. I've often thought about that too. It's like, yeah, I do have that for protection, but like if I'm woken up out of a deep sleep, all groggy and everything, like I'd feel terrible if somebody was just walking into my room to tell me, hey, the house is on fire, you need to run, and I wake up and plug one right in their chest or a couple in their face. I'd feel pretty terrible about that. So unfortunately, I think it's a situation where I'd have to kind of like feel the scenario out. Like obviously somebody's got to jump on me while I'm asleep. They would have either shot me in my sleep or strangled me out or killed me or whatever. So if I have
maybe he's about to, and you just woke up right before he stabs you in the face.
Exactly. I think it would be
huge.
kind of like what police officers have to deal with on a regular basis. Split second decisions that you or I have never been in before or don't get to experience how lightning quick that can be. So you've got to make a snap judgment. So basically, whoever it was, you shouldn't have been looming over my bed at night when you know darn good and well that I've got a gun at my ready to grab. So when it comes down to that, I think I would probably try and take my chances with the ghosts.
You got to remember too, a massive dude. He didn't say like, "Hey man, your house is on fire," and that's how you woke up.
He's just looming over me.
You woke up because something on the back of your neck said wake up. You woke up and this is what you see. You're about to die, dude. It's a massive dude about to kill you.
I've never had that scenario play out for me before, but generally I can assume that somebody who I don't know, some massive dude looming over me in my bed is, the first thing you're getting is some lead and I'll ask questions later. So I would definitely take my chances.
And that Artisan K is already hung up in the other room.
No help to me whatsoever, hiding in a closet? No,
he's already hung up. He already took care of him. You're like, hung him up, and poor guy's already dead.
One first, and I'll deal with the bigger guy later, right?
Exactly. He choked him out, hung him up. He's now coming over to yours.
Yep. I'm probably waking up to him going, why are you not being strangled out yet? And I'm like, I think when it comes right down to it, I don't give a whole lot of power or idea to ghosts and spirits and all that. So when it comes right down to it, it's going to be more along the lines of I'll be freaked out for sure. I mean, who wouldn't be in that situation? But I would be less afraid of having to deal with a ghost, specter, or spirit than I would with somebody physically about ready to do horrible, nasty things to me.
Yeah. So we have a couple that say ghost. And so you said ghost. The same thing for me. You know what I mean? Like, if it was someone with good intent, there would be a notification. There'd be, hey, man, your house is on fire. Hey, dude, hey, wake up. There'd be something. There's nothing. There doesn't articulate anything.
Somebody's trying to startle you to wake you up or whatever. That's one thing. But if they're just sitting there looking at you all creepy.
Massive dude, which means it's a threat, which means now I have a real, concrete, physical threat. So do I want to wake up in the middle of the night with a real, known physical threat, or do I want to wake up with a spiritual threat? Well, I try not to get too all like religious on this channel, but I know how to handle spiritual threats really easily.
My first thought is if I were to reach over and grab my hydro flask of water or whatever and throw it at them, it's instantly when I grab it, it becomes holy water, right? It's already blessed. So if I whip it at them, they go,
oh no, man. But I mean, I would take a ghost all day. Anyway, I'm not even going to go there. That's another story time for another day. But
we got some stories.
Some of my stories on those though would probably get me committed. So I don't know if I would ever tell them on this live stream because
it's a little bit more widely accepted around here with plenty of Bigfoot believers and lots of UFO guys and alien believers and all that around here. It's an interesting mixture of people, but so our spirituality or our religion doesn't usually fall on them like, whatever. It's all part of the deal.
Yeah. Definitely proof of the afterlife is definitely the swinger. I see no Jedi here says that. Zevia says, I'll take the ghost. Imagine the conversations and knowledge you could acquire if they're friendly.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe it's somebody from the past coming, or the future coming back to tell you something that you need to know. You know, you never know.
Yeah. And if
maybe I want to hold off on whipping holy water in its face. You never know.
And if it was like a ghost that was actually like a demon, I know how to handle that. So I would be fine with that. So anyway, that's a story time for another special channel.
That's a story of a different color.
Way reduced down. Like I said, some of those stories could get me probably committed. People would be like, well, I think he's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Well, like in a lot of ways, when you come up against somebody who's like believes the moon landing was a hoax and it never happened, whatever, I like to try and counter it back with oh, you're one of those people who believes in the moon, huh? All right.
Yeah, I do.
You just got to counteract their crazy with more crazy.
Kind of like when you go to the Flat Earth Society on Facebook on their group.
Yeah.
And at the very top, it says, we have however many groups, or we have this many people in our group from all around the globe. And you're like, read that, but slower.
Mm-hmm. How many people do you think you actually have?
Oh.
Flat Earth. Oh, you believe we're living on an Earth and not actually all hooked up to the Matrix? Well, okay then.
A globe, though they use the word globe.
Oh yeah, around the globe. Wait, hold on.
Globe.
Yeah.
What's a globe?
What you mean around the circle, the saucer, the disc?
Anyway, I think that's funny. So, 77% of the internet believes they would rather wake up with a ghost. Ghost. Yes.
CBS. Yeah. What if it was Patrick Swayze and you could recreate the Dirty Dancing scene? Hey, if Jennifer Grey wanted to show up in my room and we could recreate that Dirty Dancing scene, no problem. If Patrick Swayze wanted me to be Jennifer Grey, that'd be odd. But I think you're thinking of the movie Ghost, in which case also creepy because, oh my. Oh, wait, I'm not going to do any clay making stuff. No, that's not going to happen.
Wait, turn.
No,
let's do this.
We don't have a what do they call those clay spinners? You can't spin clay here.
All right, you're up.
All right, Paris, Europe, and France. Here we go. Pull the internet. Another great picture. I love it when they have these little.
Yeah. All right.
Why does he have a halo? All right.
I don't know.
Would you put your kid in a gorilla pit?
Oh no, that's because the story.
Harambe. Would you put your kid in a gorilla pit for $50,000? So I'm guessing that's what the lawsuit settlement ended up being after all was said and done with that. Is that
probably
the joke? Yeah. And they had the little picture as a kid in a gorilla with a halo on it saying "Rest in peace, Harambe."
So the question is, which side of that argument do you land on Harambe? Was Harambe trying to protect that kid, or was he actually torturing that kid? And was he going to kill the kid eventually and they had to protect the kid by killing him? Or was he freaked out and just trying to, drag kid around? But if you watch the video, he's super aggressive with the child. You can tell he's irritated.
But not usually that aggressive with their own kids.
Right.
Just saying.
But is he irritated with the child, or is he irritated with the people? And then is he taking his irritation out on the child, or is he just being aggressive with the child because of his irritation and not realizing what he's doing to the child could hurt the child because it's not a monkey? But see, monkeys are super smart. Gorillas are super smart. So he should have known what he was doing could have caused harm to the child. And so he was having disregard for the life of the child. And would I want my child to go through that same experience? Right. So put my child in that cage and see that very same thing. I would not want any of my children in that cage with that gorilla, because I watched that video and I wouldn't want any of my children to go through that moment in time ever for no amount of money. Ever. Doesn't matter how much money you give me. That was a traumatic experience for the child, regardless of Harambe's intent. Does that make sense? Yep. It doesn't matter whether Harambe was trying to protect him or not.
Right.
So the child was tormented regardless. And it was going to be something he'll remember for the rest of his life as a traumatic event. I wouldn't pay money to traumatize my child, regardless of whether it was Harambe's fault or not. So it doesn't really matter if Harambe was trying to protect the child or not. It was still traumatic. So that's just silly.
I've
in my
never had any blood children, so that's an easy one for me. Absolutely not. No amount of money is worth putting them in danger like that because you just, and that's the hard thing about that whole question when it comes right down to it. It's sad that, yes, a gorilla had to be put down, but I'm sorry, people. You're insane for if you think for 2 seconds that you didn't assume that kid was in mortal, horrible, limb ripping off danger at some point. So the gorilla's life is forfeit. I don't care how smart it is. I don't care how lovable and rare and whatever, blah, 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 blah. A human life over a gorilla life any day of the week. That's not even a question for me. And I don't understand why these animal rights activists can't pull their head out for just 2 seconds to even realize that. So no. Do I want them to kill the gorilla? No, absolutely not. But under those circumstances, you're pretty stupid if you're going to wait around and hope and see, save that kid, keep it from horrible mortal death.
And I agree, Frank Brown. I mean, the gorilla does get tormented every day in the cage. Like the gorilla that is not a natural environment to just be in a cage every day in a zoo. Totally not a natural thing. In fact, if we were going to, if an animal is in a situation where it needs rehabbed, and then once it's rehabbed, let's say it was a baby and it gets rehabbed and it can't be reintroduced to the wild because it's never been in the wild type thing, and it can go to more of a wild animal park, such as like the San Diego Wild Animal Park, where there's a lot more natural environment. By the way, if you've never been to the San Diego Wild Animal Park, I would highly recommend it. It's different than the San Diego Zoo. Like the zoo is just a place where there's just a bunch of animals in cages, and it's kind of sad.
On display.
It's a cool zoo. I mean, I've been there a million times because when I was in the Navy, that's like what you do on the weekends, right? You go to the zoo, but they also have the Wild Animal Park, which is, thousands of acres. And then they have animals on the acres, and they have, they roam, and you can take tours on the acreage.
Then we're in the cages, not them.
Yeah, they throw us in a cage basically and drive us around, and you can see the animals roaming free. And that made me feel so much better because there were wild cats and stuff running around this area, and of course there were high, chains and stuff around the entire perimeter of the land, but at least they had a natural habitat to run around. And then, the purpose, we're not like catching orcas just to throw them into a 1 million gallon pool that they have to live for the rest of their life. And then they die, at 1/10 of their life because they're, depressed. You know what I mean? Like that sucks. Yeah.
No, for a long time, I used to be a bit more neutral about all that, but these days I think I kind of lean more towards the idea that most of the time situations like SeaWorld and zoos and all that are usually pretty inhumane to the animals' natural habitats, because I think it became more clear for me when they tried to capture a great white shark and put it into a tank, and they just cannot survive that way. The way that they're set up and how they need to be able to free roam and all that, they never last very long, and it's usually pretty sad how they die. So, yeah, I think when it comes right down to it, I would kind of be more on the side of, I think zoos and sea parks and all that, probably not a good idea. Probably pretty terrible to the animals. We shouldn't have them.
Yeah, Matt B says no. Frank Brown says no. Zevia says as much as his kids need a good gorilla thrashing, no, he wouldn't do it.
If they could be like completely protected, like it wouldn't like cause horrible irreparable damage to them, then yeah, go ahead, toss them in, learn something.
The charming navigator used the 5 Ds of gorilla caging. He said for $50K, he'd say dodge, duck, dip, dive, dodge. Dimmy Daddy-O needs new speakers.
If you can dodge a gorilla, you can dodge a ball.
That's right. He's on it. What'd the internet say?
Luckily, the internet's not all horrible people. I mean, like, unfortunately, there's a good percentage of them that are, but 73% of Barstool readers said no. So good on you guys. At least there's some humanity left in the world.
Yeah, some humanity left in the world. 3 out of 4 people would not put their children in harm's way. 1 out of 4 is like, go Timmy.
It's pretty unusual, but I have seen rare cases where fantastic, good, involved, loving parents have horrible, nasty little bastards that just, where did you come from? I don't get it. So not that I would say I should wish that on anybody or whatever, but in our joking fantasy world where somebody could get slapped around by a gorilla, survive, but learn a lesson, throw them in the cage.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right. On to number 3, poll the internet. All right. So what is your stance on washing your hands after you take a pee? Do you wash or not wash? This is like split down the middle.
Okay, it's horribly ridiculous that under all this Corona silliness, madness, hoax, that people have to be reminded to wash their freaking. That is like common sense, people. Personal hygiene, just simple, stupid. But my reasoning on washing my hands in any public situation, I'm washing my hands to get the public off me, not to get me off me. You know, like as far as me touching my private area, I know how clean that is, how often it sees soap and water, so I'm not that worried about it. Even what comes out of me is not that big of a problem, but generally when I'm washing my hands, it's to get what I get on the handles off of me, you know, like, and I do try to walk out of there using elbows and feet to get out of the door and all that. I'll literally get done washing my hands, wiping off with a towel. I'll keep the towel in my hand to open the door up, pin the door with my leg, and then Colby it back in the trash can. Like, that's how I get out of a public restroom situation generally. So what was the question?
Do you wash your hands, yes or no, after peeing?
Taking a pee? Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll be completely frank. I'm 50-50. Sometimes I wash my hands, sometimes I don't. Yeah. And you know why? Because sometimes I go in there and there is a ton of people and it's like crowded and stuff, and I'm not doing something like eating afterwards. And so I'm just like, too many people, and I just like peed for 10 seconds and all I did was like whip it out. And I don't even like hold it the whole time. I just like let it do its thing. And then back I go, and it's like a couple seconds, and I know I clean every day. So whatever, it's not the end of the world. Like, I'm not going to get diseased if I don't. So I don't see it as that big a deal. If I'm eating, like if I'm at like, let's say Chili's, and I'm going to the bathroom,
it's like an absolute 100% across the board.
I'm going to go wash my hands afterwards just because, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it just is what it is, especially if we're like eating chips together, you know, like, oh, hey, look, here's a little bit of my peanut. Here you go, guys.
Has anybody else heard this?
So I try most of the times, but there are times when I'm in a public restroom where it's just like, you know, like, for a good example, if I am like watching the Broncos live and I go in there and it takes me like an hour to get in, and there's just like a grip full of people washing their hands, and I like barely get in. It takes me a half hour to get in there, and like I'm missing the game, and I'm like, come on. I finally get in there, and then there's like another line for the hand washing. I'm just like, I just get out. I'm not going to waste another 30 minutes for my hand washing line
to miss more of the game
because of like, I'm afraid of a couple of germs, and then like I'm not even going to probably even drink or eat anything for the rest of the game. So whatever, I'm not missing the rest of the game because it's such a, like, public events a lot of times take so long to get in and out. So it may be disgusting, but it is what it is. Most of the time I do, but sometimes I skip it. So that's just the God's honest truth.
I'll get on board with you on that sense. I can't be 100% of the time because of situations like that where, yeah, I know, again, how clean I am on a regular basis. As long as I'm not touching other surfaces in the bathroom, then I don't feel the need to, you know, scrub them down like they got a disease on them. So I can see where you're coming from in that sense, but I guess I don't know if anybody else can relate to this because I've never been imprisoned before. I've never, you know, had to deal with all that, but I guess it is like a known thing. If you're in any type of prison situation, they'll pay attention. And if you don't wash your hands after any kind of bathroom activity, you're like marked as a dirty person and stay away from them. That's like gross. You just don't do that. You know, like I didn't realize that they were very, and it makes sense. I mean, you're all very close to each other. You're kind of on top of each other in a general population situation before you go back to your individual cells. So I can see why that would be a thing. But like somebody was talking about how one time he did a situation like that, whereas I ran in real quick, unzipped, barely touched, let it hang, you know, finished off, walked out of the bathroom. It was kind of like an expedient kind of thing or whatever. And somebody saw that and was like, had to sit down with him, like going, hey man, if you don't want to be a marked man around here, if you don't want to be like quarantined from the rest of us or whatever, you wash your hands after you go to the bathroom. That's just all there is to it. And it's like, they pay attention to that crap in there.
Zevius says, Ward doesn't wash his hands because he was sitting there playing disc golf. There is a little bit of truth to that.
While you were paying.
Hold on, I'm almost done, honey. Matt B, he's funny. He's all, isn't there an old Navy and Marine joke in the Navy where, gentlemen, we wash our hands after we go to the bathroom? Well, in the Marines, they teach us not to pee on our hands.
Yeah.
The charming navigator says, if it's at home, I'm whatever. I might or might not. If it's public, I wash them for sure. And then Icino Jedi says, start peeing on people in the restroom. They'll sharp move out of your way. That's hilarious.
That's another good point. I was going off of public restrooms specifically, but yeah, at home, when it comes to peeing, I'm 50-50. When it's number two, by golly, I'm washing my hands. You just don't leave after doing that.
Frank Brown says, you should wash them before, not after, so you know where your chunk's been. That's hilarious. All right, that's number trace for me.
What percentage of Barstool readers are nasty individuals?
Oh, it was split. It was like 56%. Wash their hands after peeing, and then 44% said they don't.
You're all a bunch of grody mofos.
Yeah, about half say they don't.
And why am I saying that to you guys? Maybe none of you even go to bars.
Half
or
the
whatever.
people watching are like,
they're doing that whole meme.
I'm just being honest. I mean, most of the time I try, I do my best, but every once in a while I don't. Or if it's inconvenient, I don't. It's not like pooping.
I'm a little manic about my
If I'm
cleanliness.
pooping, I do. You know why? Because all you got to do, after you're done, just smell your hand. You can smell yourself. Like, dude, wash your hands. It transfers, dude. It transfers.
If you can smell your fingers through the mask,
Yes.
then you know there's a problem.
Dude.
Both with the stupid thing in your face, but also with the fact that you've got way too much
Just
going
wash
on.
your
Yeah,
hands.
just
If
wash
you're
your
going
stinking
number
hands.
2, just wash your hands, dude. Trust me on that. Just wash your hands.
I see no Jedi here. Just go in your pants. Save the soap.
Oh, gross.
It kind of brings me up to that old... the other prison trick, the single square, you just stick your finger through the middle, you wipe it all
Yeah, the
out,
one
then you use
square.
no,
Use
thank
the
you.
one square to get your finger.
Yeah,
that's
because that
disgusting.
cleans it so well.
I know.
Oh, moving on. All right, so would you rather be twice your weight or half your height?
We've done this one.
A variation of it, yeah. It wasn't a poll, though.
Oh, yeah. It was this one, but not a poll. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said I couldn't do half my height because I would still be the same weight. And then
Right.
I'd be half my height and the same weight, which would just make me double my weight if I went half my
I
height.
think it was just we were pointing out the irony of the question, or the or the double or the what do you want to call it?
So
that word that I
Jacob
can't
John
think of
says
right
we
now.
have done this before, but it wasn't a poll the internet one. So
Yeah.
it's same question, just not poll the internet. So there is an answer to what the internet said. I would just do double my weight and then try to work it off because I would want to maintain my
Yeah,
height.
you can
So
fluctuate your weight. You can't fluctuate your height.
I'd be over 400 pounds, but that I could at least work with 6 feet. I couldn't be 3 foot and still 225, 230 pounds. That's that one I'd be vertically challenged for the rest of my life, which is I couldn't drive, or I'd have to have special equipment to drive. I wouldn't be able to reach anything when I'm at Walmart. I'd be like, hey, could you grab that for me? And I'd be instantaneously overweight at 230, 225, 230 at that weight and that height. So I just double the weight.
And I think I'm in the same boat because, like you said,
Matt's
you
all,
can-
yeah, you did this one at least twice. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Xavier says weight.
See, you guys are all catching on too. I'm not the crazy one going, we've read this
I know.
before.
But that's the thing. I think
Yeah.
some of these questions
Have just different
are on
variations.
Poll the Internet. Some of them are on Debate the Internet. So
Yeah.
some of them, it's just the question. And then some of them, they ask the Internet and there's a response from the Internet. And they ask it slightly differently.
Yeah, they don't always anticipate us taking the time to sit and overanalyze the
But
crud
we
out
do
of
put
it.
the questions to the side once we've done
Generally,
them.
yeah, we don't.
So
we
they
don't mix
got
them back
lazy.
in.
They got lazy in this game.
Because, yeah, I think when it comes right down to it, I can affect my weight in a different way, but I can't suddenly just gain the other half of my height back. Because, yeah, once you do go half your height, you're going to be double the weight anyways
So-
because they didn't say anything about your weight changing with your height.
So Wagner says he'd double it.
Yeah.
But he'd have to work off from 540. That'd be horrible, man.
Yeah. I'd be tipping the scales at 350.
Grande Verga says, isn't there a pill to make you grow bigger? Well, not like that, buddy. Not like that, buddy.
Not like that, yeah.
Darth
I think you have a
Skywalker,
better
double
chance
weight.
of getting your hairline back than you do about getting, an extra 1.5 feet of height or whatever.
That is true. Double weight.
Double weight.
The charming
But-
navigator, half the height. He shave his beard and finally win that 100-meter sprint in under 14 seconds.
Confidence, I like it.
Jacob John, the pill you talk about is for something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Pill you speak of is also only
Wait.
temporary.
I don't use the buttons enough.
Yeah. So in this poll situation, and that's the only thing that differentiates this from the last time we've asked this question, was 63% of Barstool readers chose twice their weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a given. It's amazing how people suddenly become very insecure when height becomes a topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Especially when taller people are in the room.
I'm not that tall.
You're taller. You're definitely well above average. I'm only above average by an inch.
All right. Good question now. We're going to debate, even though it's a poll the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's
Debate.
split.
Oh, wait. In today's terms, because that means use like practically a fist fight.
This one is split down the middle as well. Like peeing on your hands or not? Wait, that wasn't the question. Do you wash your
Just the
hands?
assumption.
Do you wash your hands?
No.
No, this one is pretty good. Pull the internet, split down the middle. A real nice hypothetical question. Who's hotter, Ariel or Jasmine?
Ooh.
You've thought about this one.
Mostly because my sister's favorite movie to beat all movies back in the day was Little Mermaid. She wanted to watch the Mer all the time.
Is that Ariel?
Ariel, yeah.
Ariel's Little Mermaid?
Yep.
Who's Jasmine is the...
Aladdin.
Aladdin, okay.
And yeah, when it comes right down to it, not only for the hot ethnicity of it all, but also the fact that she's a full-blown human. Didn't have to have special magic powers turn her into such. I mean, it is, yes, of course, Jasmine across the board.
Grande Verga. Redheads are hit or miss.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of the actress's name, but she was in Entourage, and she ended up being E's longtime girlfriend for a while. And I think she's Egyptian or something like that. Anyways, super attractive. And if I think of Ariel as a nowadays situation, she's always pretty waterlogged, can't keep any of that waterproof mascara from running all the time, and she's half fish. So there's just not a whole lot that's attractive about that.
So Darth Skywalker says Jasmine. Frank Brown says Jasmine. I See No Jedi here says Jasmine. Jacob John says Jasmine. Board, right? Yep. Aladdin
Thanks,
Princess,
Greg.
he was helping me. Joe Wagner says Jasmine. Bass Reich said Jasmine. And Frank Brown said, well, there's also less chance of a fish smell with Jasmine.
It might smell more like curry, but
Grande
just
Verga says, would you get more tail with Ariel? That's an interesting question. Jacob John.
That's all you're getting.
The Little Mermaid is a Danish history written by Mick Anderson back in 1830 or something. Fun fact, he was a homosexual and made a small marks in the diary when he did thing on himself. What? What? Jasmine. Yeah, everybody's laughing at Frank Brown's comment. So I think everybody...
You're not wrong.
I think everybody wanted to go full human, Jasmine. Yeah. And I would agree. I think between the two, I would rather have...
Because I can never think of them as just the cartoon character, too. I try to imagine what they look like as a real person. And yeah.
And Ariel would smell fishy. She's always in the water. You'd be like... Is that you?
There's a lot of logistical
Go take a
problems
shower.
with that, Yeah.
Go take a shower.
As much as that Pirates of the Caribbean movie liked to kind of give us a different idea about mermaids, there's just, if they're that version of mermaid too, even more scary. Yikes.
Yeah, and Jasmine has a tiger, and she's a hot princess. The tiger thing, I don't know. Like, he could eat you, so I'm not sure about that. Like,
yeah, true.
I'd be like, man, could you put him away, please?
Hey, for all of you guys out there, what is the tiger's name?
Somebody knows. You know this. They're like, oh, it's so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that briny smell. Joe Wagner.
Yar, I like me a good fish any day of the week.
Although with Ariel, you wouldn't have to deal with in-laws. Raja.
I mean, at least well done.
Frank Brown. Dang it, Frank Brown. Why you knowing everything? Oh, Matt B. Raja. Okay, I See No Jedi here. Raja, everybody.
Well done.
Apparently everybody but us.
Yeah.
I should know. I watched all of those like 1,000 times. Most of the time when I watched like this.
What was the phrase that Aladdin slipped in as what was the Aladdin movie slip in for something sexual? They do that in all the Disney movies. They always try to slip something in there. Little Mermaid, it was the video cover. Lion King, it was when Simba landed on the flowers and it spelled sex and that whatever. But what did Aladdin say to Raja when he was attacking him that was quieted down and muted? You had to turn the volume way up to hear what he actually had to say.
I have no idea.
I looked into all those, and since my parents had all the VHS, I went back through and watched a lot of them, and I caught all the subliminal crap that Disney's pumping into your kids' heads on a regular basis. Just saying.
There is
Illuminati. Anyways.
Third eye. No.
Yeah, exactly. Poke you in your third eye.
What'd he say? What'd he say?
Oh, when the tiger was attacking him, he was up against the railing. He's all like, whoa, hold on, take it easy. No, but. And all of a sudden, if you turn the volume up real loud, he goes, take your clothes off. And then goes back to what he was saying again.
Really?
Like, wait, what? Yeah, I had to rewind.
But you got to have a VHS version to hear it.
Uh-huh. Ain't going to be on no DVD or Blu-ray.
Wow. I See No Jedi here does not know that, and that's one of his favorite
Unfortunately, every Disney movie has one. There was always either an artist, a sound person, or an actor, somebody who slipped something sexual into every Disney movie.
Well, they are put in there subliminally. Subliminally means that it can be seen or heard, but that it's traditionally not seen or heard consciously by the majority. Because subliminal means that the majority did not see or hear. Even
So
though,
the aware 12-year-old who went back and figured this all out, that I was supposed to be over my head. Yeah, okay.
yeah,
I'm just saying, I understand how sometimes they throw adult humor in
subliminal
there.
doesn't mean it won't get caught. It just means that it won't get caught by the majority.
Right.
And it's supposed to be subliminal, meaning subconscious, meaning that it's
Well, I don't
still,
go full-blown
it's still
conspiracy
caught
theory with
by
it, but
our consciousness, but subconsciously.
yeah,
If that makes
it's just
sense.
unfortunately even more today than before. There's a lot of toys, there's a lot of Disney, there's a lot of shows out there that do a lot of child grooming very early on, and it's very unfortunate.
Grande
because
Verga
that's,
says, "Take your cloak off." That was Genie to Aladdin.
No, go back and watch that one again. It's when it's when Raja's attacking him on the balcony when he first meets Jasmine as the prince. But anyways,
There is one that you should watch. It's really crazy. It is. I thought it was kind of nuts. It's the one where it's the Hawaiian little girl.
Moana.
No, it's got the little
Oh
girl.
wait, she's Polynesian. Sorry.
No, it's the little girl. Dang it. It was from Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch, okay.
And she goes and she's playing hide and seek and she goes into like the dryer or whatever. And they change the dryer into a pizza box. And she hides in a pizza box.
Oh,
And they open up a pizza box. I'm like, pizza?
Pizzagate. Yeah.
You know that like that's a bad thing to do because you know everybody's like Pizzagate conspiracy theory. So like, why would you use a pizza box? Like, why would you do that? Yeah, it was Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, everybody's like, hold on a second, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
everybody knows what I'm talking about. But they changed
We
it
got a lot
to
of Disney fans
a
in here.
pizza
I'm
box.
sorry I'm ruining your childhoods,
Yeah,
but
why would
now
you use
know.
a pizza box? And they were like, well, their reasoning was, well, we don't want kids in real life to actually go hide into a dryer. And that does make sense. But why would you use a conspiracy theory thing? Why not use something else like a cabinet? Or, you know what I mean? Like something else, like just a box.
Yeah.
Why would you use something with symbolism that would support a conspiracy theory? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? They
Exactly.
changed it to support a conspiracy theory that they're trying to discredit. It's like, why would you do that? That's stupid.
I see no Jedi here. Pizzagate. Unfortunately, if you really want to be saddened and depressed by the world at large and just how horrible all of our world leaders are and our politicians and celebrities and all that, look up Pizzagate. Unfortunately, to just give you an idea, when Obama shows up on Pedophile Island to talk to Jeffrey Epstein, when he brings 200 cheese pizzas, if you're ordering a cheese pizza on Pedophile Island, you're ordering an underage girl. If you're ordering a hot dog, you're ordering a underage boy. So you do the math.
That's not actually conspiracy either. In law enforcement, and I was in law enforcement, we had the FBI. I did FBI training, actually. That's where I got this hat, was when I did my FBI training. And they came down and we did a whole series of trainings. And they taught us about the symbology of a lot of the child kidnapping and things that were going on and whatnot. And
Matt B., you're correct, yes.
yeah, and so there's a lot of symbology they use in public, and they do a lot of stuff in classifieds. And so when they're doing child trafficking, they'll use classifieds. And so as law enforcement, we have to like actually read the classifieds and try to find child sex trafficking inside of normal classifieds by using their symbology that they're using inside. And he's right. There was an entire list from the FBI of words that they used to define individuals. So they'd say like, we are having a Memorial Day bash. We're going to have a party. If you'd like to bring, hot dogs, let us know. We, need something, but then the pricing would be very, very high. And so there would be things that were off. And so there'd be those small clues and you'd have to see that. And then you'd know that that's a location where they were housing children. And so you have to pay attention, and then you'd have to do surveillance and then hope you could find enough on surveillance that you could get a warrant and then you could go in. And like 3 years ago, they found 60 children because they were talking about hot dogs and pizza at this particular party, and that people were going to be bringing $3,000, some really nice $3,000 hot dogs to this party. And they did some surveillance, and then they got a warrant, and then they busted in there and they found 60 boys and girls. And so the term pizza and hot dog are not like a conspiracy theory. That's actually a real thing. So for anyone that says that's a conspiracy theory, you're a liar. And if the media is telling you that's a conspiracy theory, you're just believing a lie. And anyone saying that it's a conspiracy theory, like there are conspiracy theories that get spun off of this probably, but there is facts within this, and every conspiracy theory probably has some fact that has spun off into a conspiracy theory, but there's facts into that, and the government has found many, many children using these keywords. And that's how we find the children that are being kidnapped.
It just goes to show how overconfident a lot of these people are getting, and how blatant they think that they can just be. There's how arrogant they are, thinking they can get away with it with that. So
they talk.
It's good that they're slipping up
loud
now and thinking that it's more normal that they can get away with it now. But it's sad. It's a much bigger problem than our current situation that we're going through. Let alone a lot of other things that people try to blind us with on a regular basis, because hundreds of thousands of kids go missing every year. Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to our cards, man. You're making me depressed.
I know, right? Sorry. Something very close to my heart in a weird way. Yeah.
For sure.
If I could join law enforcement or military just specifically to go hunt down pedophiles, sign me up tomorrow, yesterday. Anyways, poll the internet. Who's more dominant? Here we go. Who's more dominant? Kenyans and marathons or Indians and spelling bees?
Oh man,
we're not talking Native Americans here. We're talking actual Indians. It is
dot Indian. Not,
we are. Yeah, that's a big stereotype.
Yeah, super stereotype.
But hey, I mean, what's wrong with being fast and what's wrong with being smart? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I would say Kenyans and marathons is
more dominant than Indians.
Yeah, more dominant. Yeah, Kenyans because I know, right? That's so stereotype. Yeah, I'd say Kenyans. I mean, dude, there are some really tall Kenyans, and you know they're like, this is what I'm gonna do is just run.
They're just naturally aerodynamic, and they are just super fast. I've seen some of them run. I was a fast runner in high school. I definitely had good times. I had good legs on me. I did a lot of sprints. That was my big thing, especially in a lot of the, if any of you guys were ever in church, never went to any Awana groups, there was a thing called the Awana Olympics. I won that 4 years in a row. It was a big thing. I've always been a fast runner, but I think with certain people like Usain Bolt, yeah, that'd be fun just to see how quickly he'd pull away from me.
He got coronavirus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the crazy thing is coronavirus can damage your lungs up to 30%.
Ooh.
So
was he one of the 0.0001% of people who could actually be affected that bad by it?
Yeah, so I don't know. So we'll see how. I mean, if he gets it and gets over it really quickly, then no big deal. But if it does any damage to any of his lungs, he could be basically done with his career. Because
that'd be rough.
Yeah, because any damage to the lung, and he won't be the same runner. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's the best runner in the world. But, do any kind of damage to the lung and he'll be lesser than he was, which will give all his competition a leg up over him.
So he'll just be a normal Olympic gold medalist who would stay with
the rest of the pack. He didn't retire, actually. He just ran this last year. Literally, He just ran this last year. He was in 2 competitions this last year. So
I remember when I first saw him in the Olympics, and it was a bunch of well-known, pretty fast guys. There was another American there who's been known for being really quick or whatever, and he absolutely outran. I mean, he ran the soles off those shoes. It was ridiculous. He even slowed down at the end to turn to the crowd and throw his hands out like, what the heck just happened? I was just like, are you kidding me? You pulled out that far amongst everybody and even had enough time to slow down and break your concentration to be like, what?
That's funny.
I do remember that very vividly. It was quite a cool moment where I was just like, oh, who is this Usain Bolt guy? I mean, it's a cool name, but oh, wow, okay, now I know who he is.
I used to sell the XS energy drinks. They're all natural energy drinks. I used to drink them and sell them, and he drank them and sold them. Like, he was a part of our part of our, like, it was like an MLM, like a multi-level marketing scheme thing or whatever. But I just like those particular drinks. And so I would buy them in bulk, get them in discount, keep them in my garage. And then I would just side hustle them as well to anybody who wanted them, because I liked them. And then I'd buy them in bulk and have them in the shelves, and people who knew me were like, "Oh, we like those too." So they'd buy them from me. But he was like our spokesperson for the excess energy drinks. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, for the poll results on that one, I'm in the same boat with everybody else. I think that's kind of across the board. The stereotype fits better over the Kenyans and Marathons over the Indians and Spelling Bees, because I've seen a lot of different ethnicities, and I don't watch Spelling Bees very often, but once in a while when I do catch them, it does seem to be a variety of kids that are better spellers than I could ever be.
Yeah.
And because they're so stinking natural
There are
at it
Chinese
too.
kids, Japanese kids, Asian kids, Indian kids, American kids,
Again,
African kids, like all
kids,
over, man.
fresh, spongy brains working on that. You don't see a whole lot of adults in Spelling Bees.
I mean, it is true. There have been plenty of Indians who've won that, and that's why there's that stereotype. And they definitely push that, academics, but so do they push the academics everywhere in the Euro-Asian continent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they realize over there you need to teach kids good basic skills as opposed to indoctrinating them with politics like we do in America now.
I see no Jedi here. Thought we said Canadians, not Kenyans. No.
Monster energy, make you so fast you think you're from Kenya, then people think you're a Kenyan. You'll be deported back to Kenya. Oh, anyways.
I just did a Australian.
We're all over the place. Anyways, the
totally
poll agrees with all of us. 56% of Barstool readers said Kenyans. Yes, and I think that
56. That was pretty split.
It's pretty split, yeah. But
look at these split.
The majority knows better.
The majority.
In this situation, sometimes I don't.
We got one more each, huh? Oh, Canadians aren't good at running, only curling, according to Matt B.
Really good at sweeping ice, let me tell you.
All right, this is a good
those
one.
Intense looks.
This is a good one. This is a yes or a no. So we gotta figure out, is it yes or no? Poll the internet. We're gonna find out. We're gonna poll you guys. Is it acceptable to floss in public?
Huh.
Is flossing, like after you eat, you're in public, you're like,
Well, then this brings up another question. Is toothpicks and floss on the same level?
Toothpicks and floss, yes. Let's throw it all together. Messing with your teeth after you've eaten or any time, just
because I do floss at home.
Is flossing in public acceptable?
Before brushing and all that.
Picking, flossing, messing with your teeth in public,
I toothpick at the table rather than floss. So I've never. Well, I take that back. I think there may have been a situation where I had floss at the table. I pulled some out and took care of that real quick at home, but not like at a public restaurant or whatever. Whereas a toothpick, well, yeah, if I have one available to me, if I don't already have one in my mouth or in my wallet or something like that, then yeah, I definitely see no problem with toothpicking my teeth after a meal.
Boy, this is going to be split. So far, Frank Brown says no. And Frank Brown then added, hell no.
Well, I think flossing has a much higher chance of being able to flick food somewhere as opposed to a toothpick is just kind of like, no, I got it out of there. Like floss can have a little bit of a slingshot effect to it.
Yeah, Joe Wagner says yes. So right now we're at no and then yes. And then Matt B said no, but apparently in China it's acceptable. That's where he's at right now. Jacob John, why not just do it nicely? How do you do it nicely?
I guess not while you're having a conversation. I think. It's like, oh, let's go ahead and take care of this real quick. And all right, yeah, I think we're good.
Bassreich says no. Aldry says, I guess, but I wouldn't do it in public. Not sure if I've seen a lot of flossing in public. Man, that is about the most on-the-fence answer I've ever heard, Aldry. Pick a yes or a no. Pick a yes or a no.
Hey, I'm good at on-the-fence answers. I'm really good at those.
I see no Jedi here says he's British, so it's par for the course for him. He's for me to offend everyone. No offense, Matt. Canadians are cool. Just leave the table, Matt B says. Just leave the table. That's funny. I see no Jedi here says no. So we've got 3 no's that I'm aware of that I can concretely determine because Aldry's on the fence saying both. Aldry finally, all right then, no.
Fine.
No.
Just out of a complete side
3
note,
no's and a yes.
Here.
Joe Wagner's the only one over there like, what?
I don't get it.
It's okay, you guys.
I think in some situations, if you
You're
had
fine
a
with it too, aren't you?
I guess, like I said, I don't floss at the table. I toothpick at the table. That's not a
What
problem.
about
to me or whatever,
plackers?
but, like,
That's like picking
plackers?
and flossing. Plackers, the
Oh,
thing with the
yeah.
like little floss thing on one side and
little plastic
pick at the other.
toothpicks. Yeah.
That's what I would use. I
Those
would
are
actually
handy.
use floss.
Right.
Who
Floss
actually-
is odd. I think it would just kind of look funny because people automatically assume you're doing that in your bathroom, whereas a flosser, a toothpick, and all that are the more socially acceptable forms. I think it just all depends on the person. Because, I mean, you can go to eat with somebody and you suddenly lose your appetite because they chomp their food so stinking loud, or they got food flying out of their mouth, or they're so messy. It's like there's certain people that it's like just eating with them is like an experience because you're like, dude, everything you do is haphazard or a bowl in a china cabinet or just unclean. So some of their habits, just even being around them, can be like, ew. And then they pull out floss and start flicking food all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a no. But for the majority of people that I know that are generally clean and they're socially, aware and things like that, okay, yeah, somebody were to pull out floss, I think it's odd, but I wouldn't be like, ew, get that away.
So I would say personally, I don't give two craps. Do it or
Right.
don't do it. Who cares? Okay. I don't personally do it because I don't carry plackers or floss with me. So I would never do it in public, not because I'm against it, just because I don't carry any of that stuff with me because I'm lazy. I don't carry any of that stuff with me. There's occasions when I have something in my teeth and I'm like, man, I wish I had floss or something with me, but I never have it with me. So, but I personally don't care if you do it. But the question isn't, does Warrior care? It says, is it socially acceptable? And I would say in most cultures, and I'd have to speak for my culture, America, I'd say in most of America, it is not socially acceptable
I agree with that.
to floss in public would be my answer. And 80% of the internet says it's not socially acceptable. So 4 out of 5 agree with me that it's not socially acceptable. 1 out of 5 say do it. But I don't care if you were with me and we were eating and you pulled out your pick or your floss. I wouldn't care. Unless you flicked me in the face with your food and it plopped on me, and I'd be like, dude.
I think it's all about awareness.
Stop.
If you're aware of how you're coming across to people, or if you're being gross about it, then no, not socially acceptable. For otherwise, it's just more like, oh, it's a little odd, but okay, whatever.
Frank Brown, you're funny. That's hilarious.
Special place in hell for them, huh? Oh.
I'd be all right, Joe Wagner. It's okay, Joe Wagner. If we were together and eating, you could do it. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
All right. Your last question.
Last one.
Last one. Let's do it.
Let's see here. It's
short.
a big, heavy duty question.
Holy
it's
cow.
something it'll spur on a lot of thought, a lot of debate. It's very controversial, and some might even consider it triggering or offensive, guys. So I warn you now. Prepare yourselves. Bacon or sausage?
Bacon, 100%. I love sausage. Don't get me wrong. Love me some sausage. Bacon, 100%. Bacon on anything. Bacon for breakfast. Bacon for free. Bacon for bacon for me. Bacon.
Oh,
bacon.
here we go.
Frank
the
Brown.
controversy starts. I can see the fight
Audrey,
starting
bacon.
already.
I see no Jedi. Bacon. Joe Wagner. Bacon. Matt B. Bacon. Warrior. Bacon. Grande Verga. Sausage. Jacob John. Bacon. I'm a chef. Bacon is the best. Bassreich. Bacon is the best.
Jacob John, I have to mention it's kind of funny because the way you spell your name is normally how people misspell my name.
He's Danish, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe he's Danish.
Oh, and you're allowed to spell it however you want. I just think it's funny.
Yeah, but I'm Danish too, so I'm proud.
That's right. You got some Dane in you.
Proud. Except for then I do a Scottish accent. I have the worst with accents, dude. I can't do accents. Just so you guys
Danish
know.
accents are more subtle than that. It's almost like everything has a bit more of a question inflection to it.
Yeah, I know. I'm bacon overwhelms.
Yeah.
everything.
See, sorry, Jacob. That's the
XO.
more widely known spelling around here. That's the one from the Bible. That's where my parents named me from.
Yeah.
Which is funny how our parents only.
I thought your name was SureShot.
I know, right? It's funny how most parents only think they name their kids. I think there's more behind the
You're
name.
a maybe shot or
Yeah.
possible shot,
Just in case shot.
kind of shot.
Yeah, if I'm lucky enough shot. Yeah, no, definitely bacon across the board. That's an easy one. I definitely like both. I don't mind sausage at all, but it's interesting when people put caraway seeds in sausage.
Yeah.
That's a really intense one. If you accidentally bite into one of those, it can kind of ruin the whole sausage for me. It does funny things to my stomach. So when it comes right down to it, bacon's just softer, but it's still the tastier one in every situation because you don't have to do anything to it generally. Although, I don't know if you've experienced this yet, my bacon candy or my meat candy.
I don't think so.
I've done it a couple of times for situations and social gatherings and all that, but I have a very interesting mixture where I won't tell you all the seasoning and all that because it's a super trade secret and I will kill you. But the bacon is layered in a good thick layer of brown sugar first. It's baked in the oven, not fried. And with the other combination of things I do, it does come out in a crystallized bacon candy bar almost. And I've gotten great feedback on it. I think there's been a few copycats out there, but
Frank Brown, you haven't given Warrior your meat candy yet?
Yeah.
My bacon candy, vaguely suggestive. Shame on you, good sir.
It has been offered a few different times. It's a bit of a process. It takes a while to prepare bacon candy.
This is all going south very quickly.
Yeah. Hey, you guys get your mind out of the sewer and back up in the gutter with the rest of us, all right?
Yeah.
Tell you what.
We're friends.
Obviously, 73% of Barstool readers said bacon, of course.
Yes.
That's an easy one. That's a given. But no,
Of
I think
course.
one of these days live on the live stream, I'll prepare this bacon candy. You can see the whole process. It takes about as long as a live stream to get the whole thing done. But once it's all said and done, it's pretty tasty. I actually saw a documentary called United States of Bacon or something along those lines.
I'm not approving that, Frank Brown. I can't approve that. That is wrong on every level.
Sorry, I wouldn't offer it. But the truth of the matter is, I took my idea off a variation of what it was. Somebody else has a gourmet restaurant where they literally get the whole bacon or the whole pig stomach and they cut it into bacon steaks, so like super thick, and they put it through a whole smoking process that's already cured, obviously, but they put it through a smoker that infuses flavor into it, along with the brown sugar being the base, their own variation of spices, and it comes out to you on 3 strips on a plate with great presentation and all that, and you literally eat it like a steak. It looked ridiculously good, and I had my idea and a variation off of that, so it's not the same thing, but it's tasty.
Aldrich says you should go into business, man. Make some of that bacon candy. Let's do this. All right, I need your help.
That's a side thing for fun and for people who come over and all that. That's a special occasion.
We're ready for story time. I'm going to do story time, but I need to know whether you want the story time that comes out of the high school hallways of my school when I was in high school, or whether you want the story time coming out of the comparison between my children's working and when I was a child and working. So comparing when I was working versus when my children are working, or coming out of high school hallways, the antics coming out of high school hallways. Joe Wagner says school. School antics is what he says. Hi, Warrior. What's up, I Ate Farming? What up, brother? So those two stories, the comparison story between my childhood working versus my children's childhood working, and then my school antics, high school antics. So I've got the school story and the comparison story. School or comparison. I got 3 for comparison and then 1 for school so far. And we'll do them both.
You want something a little bit more funny and goofy, or a little more specifically life lesson?
Yeah, one's life lesson, one's kind of just goofy. So the school one's goofy, kind of funny, and then and we'll do that one next week. Both. School comparison sounds interesting.
The majority of people are interested in life lessons right now.
So 4 for comparison, 2 for school. So
I'm really glad they feel like they learn something when they tune in.
So I know, right? So let's do the school story next week. I have it written down so I don't forget.
Hey, good. You're remembering.
I know. I texted myself because I am old school, silly guy.
Yep. I text myself a lot.
I did tell you the story though about the school. That was pretty funny, wasn't it? Yeah. Actually it's 2 mini stories in one. So we'll do those next week. Those are kind of funny. Actually, both of them are very funny. So we'll do those 2 stories next week. But what happened with this comparison story is I wanted to compare kind of when I was in high school and working versus like my children in high school and working. And the reason why I wanted to compare it is just perspective And I thought it was kind of interesting. I was chatting with my son, and I was telling him, I was just talking to him, and, he sees me as a middle-aged white boy who's very successful. So he sees me as like a privileged white person. I've got white privilege. At least that's his perspective, right?
Other than the white privilege part, you're not completely wrong.
Yes, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like he's ethnic and he's growing up or whatever, but he's like experiencing my privilege because of what I've gone through. But he hasn't seen my struggles. So he hasn't seen any of that. And so sometimes telling stories gets him to kind of see into the window that is my past. And so I actually wasn't even talking to my son. I was actually talking to a friend of mine. We were, my friend and I, he's been on the show before. His name is Jared, but he goes by Dilstradamus. Don't ask me what that means. You don't want to know. He goes by Dilstradamus in the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes game. And Dilstradamus has been on here before, but he was over. His name's Jared. Jared was over, and we were hanging out, and we were just chatting about like when we were in high school and like, jobs we enjoyed. And I was telling him about working at Fur's cafeteria, and I was telling Jared. And so my son comes in, and he just kind of is standing there listening. I didn't even realize he was to my side, but apparently the story kind of hit him funny. And then we kind of got to talking about it. So we'll talk about that. But so what it was I was at Fur's cafeteria, and I've actually told you guys a story. If you remember, when I started working at Fur's cafeteria, I was working pots and pans. And there was an immigrant that worked back there with me, and he was mad that he had to work pots and pans, and I'd worked for months, and then they moved me into doing dishes, and he had to do pots and pans, and he was mad. He took a knife and he cut me, and I like jumped, and he like cut my tricep, and when I jumped, I slipped on the water, and I fell, and my head hit the side of the thing, knocked me out, and I fell to the ground, and there was blood everywhere, and it was just because I had got a little contusion on the head. And then the gay dude, Daryl Clark, who was my boss, came around, saw me like unconscious, bleeding from the arm and the head.
Warrior, no!
Yeah, the immigrant was like gone. He ran out the back door, thought he had killed me. And so that was a story time we've already told once before, but that's the same Fur's cafeteria that I was working at. And so, that's
dangerous cafeteria.
I know. So I'm like 14 years old. I was working at this place doing pots and pans, worked up to doing dishes, almost get killed. You know what I mean? By this dude that wants to kill me or whatever, cause he doesn't want to scrub a pot. But then eventually, the goal in my life was to get into bakery, because in bakery, really bakery isn't much of bakery. It's like you throw a few things into the oven, but most of it is actually cutting pies and or other baked goods. And then you put it on the line, because if you don't know, Fur's cafeteria was a cafeteria. So people would pay $8 to have unlimited food, and they'd go through the line and grab their food. And so you would just continue to keep the line full of food. And so, and it was cheap cafeteria food. It was really bad cafeteria food, but whatever. It was my, it was my second job, actually. It was the second job I had, because Western Sizzlin was my first, but Fur's cafeteria was my second. So I wanted bakery, but there was a reason why I wanted bakery. It wasn't because I wanted to get out pots and pans because it was dirty, because I actually didn't care about the dirtiness or the wetness or any of that. What I wanted it was because my mom was a single mom, raising 3 kids. We were growing up poor, and I worked really, really hard to make some money, and I was always hungry. And so we were hungry a lot. And so eating wise, it was really nice to be able to, get some kind of supplementary food that was different, and good. And so if you could work in the bakery at 9 p.m. sharp, he'd say, pull the line. Daryl, my boss, would say, pull the line. And anything on the line was trash, unless it was something that could be refrigerated till the next day. But that was almost nothing. Almost nothing could be refrigerated. And he had this rule, because he knew a lot of us were young kids that came from single homes, single parent homes and stuff. And he understood that a lot of us didn't have a lot of food and were coming up kind of in poverty. So his rule was basically, once we pulled the line, whatever happened to that food from the time it got pulled to the time it went to the dumpster was fair game. But it had to make its way to the dumpster at some point. So pull it, throw it in the dumpster, because it's trash. But it has to go to the trash at some point. So if we consumed some of it after we pulled it off the line, while we were headed to the trash can, we could do that. Well, if you worked bakery, you got to eat the pulled baked goods. So I got to eat pies and rolls, and yeah, it was all cold. Like the rolls were cold, they weren't warm anymore.
Why you want to be back there comes out.
Yeah, I wanted to eat like good food or whatever. So like there was pies and stuff. It was funny because by like 8 p.m., I'd be back there like cutting pies, and he's like, no, we don't need any more pies cut. What are you doing? And I'm like, I want this pie for tonight. You know what I mean? He's like, no, you can't cut any more pies. Stop that. What are you doing? And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm hungry, man. I am hungry.
Work around food all day. Come on.
Yeah, no, I just want to eat dinner. I haven't eaten anything. And the reason is, and this isn't actually a dig on my mom at all, because she'd feed me dinner, except for I wasn't home for dinner. You see, a lot of people don't realize it, but I work 5 nights a week. I was in high school, but I went to school from, I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get ready for work from 6 to 7, get to school by 7:20 or whatever. I was at school till almost 4. And then I was at work till at 5. And I worked 5 days a week from like 5 to 10, because we'd pull the line at 9 and we'd be done by about 10. And then I'd get home late at night. Well, I worked from 5 to 10. I mean, that is dinner time for everybody. It was for me too. So I get home from school, and I was a teenager. So of course I'd like get home and I'd make a couple sandwiches and shovel 2 sandwiches into my stomach. But by like 7 or 8, I was hungry again. And we had like specific rules on how you could make sandwiches at the house, like 1 slice of bread, 1 slice of bread each way, 2 slices of that meat, 1 piece of cheese, like, because it had to last a certain amount. And then when you read the instructions, it was like, this package is designed for 1 sandwich. And we were like making that 1 package last for like 8 sandwiches. So, I mean, it was like 1 slice of meat was really like, 1/8 of a serving. So, but anyway, so it wasn't a lot of food. So I would go to work hungry, and then I would be hungry at night. So that's why I wanted to work a line that I could pull food from so I could eat, because I was hungry. And when I get home, I just, like emaciated. I was like, ah! So I would want to eat.
Ravenous.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm like sitting here and I'm like trying to work so I could eat some food and stuff. And sometimes we'd work late until like 11 or 11:30, and I get home. But see, back then it was $4 an hour. That was the minimum wage. And of course I was a kid with no bills. So who cares, right? But after the government takes their taxes, you're making like $2.50 to $3 an hour max. So let's just pretend it was $3 an hour, but it wasn't. And you're working 5 hours a day. You're making $15 a day. After 5 days, you're making $45 a week. So we'll round it up to 50, but it's not. But, so and then when I'm talking to my friend about this, and he's laughing, he's like, yeah, I remember that, man. I'd make
yeah, good old days.
Yeah, he's like, I made about $40 a week. I'm like, that's what I made, about $40 a week, $50 a week, depending on how many hours and stuff. And he's like, wow, and he's like, well, when do you do homework? I was like, well, I go home and I'd stay up till midnight or 1 to do homework. And my son's over here, and I can see his jaw just going, because he's never worked like that. He never did homework like that. He basically went back, and he got kind of like generously pushed through to get his degree. They basically kind of let him, the high school he went to, they basically kind of did like a mercy graduation for him and stuff, and he didn't really try or whatever, and so anyway, he was blessed. They helped him out.
You didn't really put in the work, but you're definitely making the effort, so we'll give you some credit.
So he was blessed, but it was just interesting because he saw that, and he was like, when he was in high school, same thing with my daughter right now. She's in high school. She's working at Sonic. It's a minimum wage job. She's only working 3 days a week. Okay. She works on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday day. So she doesn't affect school at all, because she's home on Sunday in time. Friday and Saturday, it's like after school. So she doesn't have it. She has time for all of her studies. She has social time. She only works 3 hours a week, and she's making after tax $200 a week. She's making, 800 after tax, but over 1,000 before tax money every single month. I mean, she just gave me $3,000 cash for a car. Like, here you go, Dad. You know what I mean? And she's in high school, and she's only working just barely part-time. She's working less hours than I worked. Has a better work-life balance. Back in the days
when it was easier to save.
I know. And like, I was like hustling. And then the first day, if you remember, another story time, the very first car I ever bought, I bought it with my mom. She got the loan for it. And then that first night we took it out and we totaled it. Do you remember that story? You know, it was a 74 Chevy Nova 4-barrel, you know, and we took it out and I didn't, you know, we tried to go really fast and we crashed the car and totaled the car and the 4 of us jumped out. And then I was like, we got to say it's stolen. Well, anyway, we didn't say it was stolen, but we totaled it. And then I had to pay for that car for 2 years. And I had to pay for the insurance increases because my mom's insurance went up by $100.
Right.
Even though I didn't have a car, I had to pay for the insurance premium increases because she's poor. She's like, you just caused my insurance to go up by $100, even though we don't have a car. So I was
Here's your rough life lesson.
So, well, I'm like a responsible human being. I'm not like a
Crazy.
jerk. So I'm like, well, Mom, since I'm responsible for making it go up by $100 a month for the next 2 years, I'll pay for $100 increase, and I'll pay for a car that I totaled. Because I have 2 years of $100 a month payment. So I had to pay $200 a month for 2 years for my junior and senior year. And I only made $200 a month. I literally barely made enough to pay that car payment and insurance. I had no money to my name and I had to work every day from the time I woke up to school to the time I went to bed to try to, you know what I mean? Like, so like the perception, like, they've got it hard and stuff. I don't know. I was looking at like how I grew up and my son was like, damn, you had it tough or whatever. And I was like, well, I didn't see it that way. I did not see it that way. I just saw it as life.
That was just the normal back then. That's what the standard was. I remember when there's a little bit of an age gap here, but when I first started working, it was federal minimum wage was $5.15 an hour, about to go up to $5.50. So in my first I've had some odd jobs in the past, whatever, but my first like worthwhile job was $6.15 an hour because they said, oh, well, you've been working for us for a while, and with federal minimum wage going up, we still think you're worth $6.50 instead of $5.50. So I felt like I was like, hey, check me out.
But I just find it funny because there's so many things about this. One, that was the normal. Two, his perception was that I'm just this like super advanced, super like easygoing, like, oh, my dad makes 6 figures. He's like this, you know, super white privileged guy. But what he doesn't realize is I'm like,
what it took to get you there.
Used to have a 14-hour day every day while I was in high school, getting A's and B's, working my butt off, paying for a car I was never driving. Also, I could help my mom and eating food that was going to the trash so I could feed myself because I was at a job instead of at home enjoying my social hour. But you know what it did? It kept me out of trouble because if I wasn't there, guess what I would have probably been doing? I probably would have been doing silly stuff that I shouldn't have been doing and getting in trouble with other people or whatever. So it did keep me out of trouble. So that was good. And the other perspective I just kind of saw the comparison wise is like, the whole minimum wage thing is nuts. Like there's supposed to be a job out there that children can go do where they're not making
your first step into the working world. Yeah.
Money. Like it's okay that my first job or my second job, like paid me like $200 a month. Like it's okay. Like it was an entry level job. I hustled, but I didn't make a ton, but I also had no bills. But my daughter right now is making $1,000 a month working like 3 evenings. 3 evenings. That's it. 3 evenings. She's barely putting in any time and she's making $1,000 a month. Like, how is that fair? I mean, it's great for her. She's making money hand over fist, but I just don't understand.
Just goes to show you how some people can have a real skewed view of the world, because I think a lot of people don't realize that there are entry-level jobs and jobs that you need to have experience to work into that are worth more. But a lot of people that are working these entry-level jobs feeling entitled to more money, it's like, well, that's not how this works.
And then I like, you go to Sonic where she works and everything on the menu now is exorbitant. Like everything is ridiculous price. The only thing you can get cheap is like a drink, like a literal like halftime happy hour 3 to 5 p.m. drink is like $1 or whatever. But other than that, like you want to get a meal, it's $10. I remember when I was that age, a meal was literally $5, and people don't understand. But like
back when McDonald's had the dollar menu, I could get fed for $5.
You're gonna pay people $5 an hour. Your meals are $5 an hour. You pay people $10 an hour. The meals are $10 an hour. Like people don't realize inflation or how inflation works. So anyway, I can understand you got to pay people a fair wage and all of that, and I understand that and get that. But fair wages come from employers recognizing individuals doing a good job and giving them pay raises. And I don't know if you guys know this or not. This is an actual fact, just so you guys know. So facts don't care about people's feelings. But do you know how many people work minimum wage in America? Guess. Just guess.
How many
minimum wage jobs.
We have.
This is a fact.
We're around 327 million people in the United States.
330 million people.
we're probably 220-ish that are actual working age that aren't too young for that, or senior citizens and aren't
170 million
whatever.
workers, actually. Only 170 million work.
Only 70 million. Okay, so
Yeah, that are
in minimum
taxes.
wage jobs. I mean, it probably is something ridiculous, like at least 70 million then.
So you think 70 million of the 170 million, you think that almost half of everybody makes minimum wage? 40% of people. You just said about that.
If you look into, well, maybe I'm being ridiculous.
$8 to $12 an hour is minimum wage around the United States. Some places it's like $15 an hour. Some places it's like $8 an hour. Depends on where you live. Because if you live in Kansas, $8 an hour and you're like, whoop, whoop. But if you're in like Grand Junction where I'm at, $8 an hour and you're like, I can't pay my rent. You know what I mean?
Up to 11 here is a federal minimum wage, I think.
Well, we get paid $12 an hour now, minimum wage. So it's $12 an hour, but no, I'm gonna drop a fact on you guys really quick.
Drop it. I was being ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. 44%. No. Nationwide, this comes from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Last year, 3% of people in the United States that are employed, gainfully employed, get paid minimum wage.
Wow.
That's it.
That's surprisingly less than I thought it was.
97% of people paying their taxes that are gainfully employed are making more than minimum wage. Actually getting paid more than the minimum wage. So
it's a heck of a lot more positive than I thought it would be.
yeah. So if you're in America and you're getting paid minimum wage, you're part of a 3% of individuals. My ask is, if you're in that 3% and it's not enough money, leave that for the children and move yourself out of that 3% and find one of the other 97% of the jobs that pays more than the 3%.
That's a great point. If you're sitting there squabbling over the minimum wage not being high enough for you to have a livable wage, well, then you're still in an entry-level job and you need to get more experience to go after something that's better for you. Why are you hanging out in a job that's an entry-level position?
Yeah. It's only 3%. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's only 3% make minimum wage. So,
well, the politicians would sure have
fight.
liked to have made you think that my guess was correct.
Yeah. It's funny. Your guess is exactly what America thinks about it. But anyway, my perspective was just funny because my son listened to the story and he was just like, I had no idea you struggled and I forgot that. And he's like, stories like this humanize you. He's like, because you're so successful now, or at least that's his perception. That was my son's perception. He's like, you are so successful now. He's like, I forget that you come from like humble beginnings. And so it was actually humbling for me to hear him actually realize or have that epiphany that like life hasn't been handed to me on a silver platter like it has him.
I always,
you know what I mean? Like he has.
I always made a point to praise my parents
platter.
for what they did because we were always in poverty as kids. My parents could barely make it work. My dad was always getting kicked to the curb from a lot of really horrible jobs and that. So seeing what they were able to pull off with 4 kids, in spite of what they were making, the fact that we never got evicted, the fact that we never were on the streets or whatever, I always praised my parents just being like, you guys were magicians with the money that you had. It's amazing because you couldn't pull that off now with what you had back then for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting. But I just look at my daughter and, you know, she worked this summer for 2 months, saved up $3,000 over a 2-month period of time and bought a car cash. I worked 2 years, my junior and senior year to pay off a car. And I had to work 2 years every night for 5 nights a week and gave up my entire childhood basically. So I could pay for a car that I only got to drive once. Now that's my fault. That's my fault that I only got to drive it once, but she worked just a couple of months and earned enough to pay for an entire car cash. And I had to work for an entire summer or for 2 years. So it's just perspective. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I get it. If you're like a single mom and you're working a minimum wage job, you need a livable wage, but at the same time, you probably should find one of the 97% of the jobs that pay more than minimum wage, because that is actually from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. 97% of jobs pay more than minimum wage right now. But, yeah. So anyway, but people see the perspective they choose to, Audrey. You're right. Absolutely. So next week, we're going to do a fun, lighthearted story coming out of high school.
I have been pulling into a lot of depressing topics lately. I apologize, guys. I need to keep this more lighthearted around here.
So I didn't have time in the evenings to have fun and be silly and stupid with my friends. And so when did I do that? I did it during school, right? You know, we did stupid stuff during school that we probably shouldn't have done. And so we got a couple of really funny school stories. that we did during lunchtime. Actually, we have a bunch of them, a lot of them, but we're going to pick two of them for next week. And I'm pretty excited to share both of them. They're actually hilarious. So we're going to go through both of those next week during story time. But I appreciate you hopping on and hanging out with me today.
Always glad to be here.
And all of you as well. So as always, everybody, thanks for coming on. If you
Appreciate you
watching this after the fact, make sure you can always leave comments down below. I always respond to each and every comment after the fact. So make sure you leave comments down below. And as always, make sure you keep your gaming on. SureShot and Warrior